I'm Marc Silber. I am a photographer and an author in Carmel, California. Our guest today is Pye Jirsa. He's a director, photographer, and educator, and he's the founder of Lynn and Jirsa Photography. You can see some of their work right here, and founder of SLR Lounge. And if you're in the photography space, you must have seen their incredible work. Pye, welcome to Advancing Your Photography. Great to have you with us.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate the invite and being on the show.
Let's just dive in. First of all, I always ask what your passion is, what really drives you when it comes to photography.
That's interesting because I would say my passion is not necessarily photography itself. When it comes to like my own family, the aspects that I love is the documenting of the memories, the looking back, and I can pull up images from these past road trips and family trips and all these different things, and I can look at an image and actually feel what I did back in that moment. And that's a very powerful thing to understand for yourself, and then to take that into your clients' lives. So that's probably the piece that I'm most passionate about, is evoking that feeling again, that bringing that thing back up.
Tell us about
Sure.
this photograph.
So this is, again, another just family trip. We're going up to, this is in San Luis Obispo, Bubblegum Alley.
As far as the composition, you have this leading line.
Yep.
Perfect example, you guys, of a leading line or leading lines going right to the subject. And, that's the use of a leading line, is it helps basically show the viewer exactly who you want them to look at and what you want. And his face is just so prominent there. And now we're getting into the wedding side of your repertoire. So tell us about this.
I love weddings, and I love Indian weddings more
Yeah.
than anything.
They're amazing.
To me, a wedding day represents this, it's just this high production landscape of anything you want to create. And I try to tell our students, like, look, you got to think about this from the perspective of like a Hollywood budget, right? Like, when would you ever get the opportunity? Most of these people are spending 50, 100, 250, $1 million plus on these weddings. And it's like, if you were to be filming a Hollywood movie, you would have a producer there sitting there, just looking through every single line item of expense and trying to throw things out. And you're fighting for every possible thing to get on set and on location. And here you have these weddings that, like, it's there, it's done. You have all these incredible vendors that come together and give you this, they just drop this thing in your lap. There's so much opportunity for just incredible imagery, high production imagery. And so we often forget that. We look at the wedding and we go, oh man, I don't want to do family formals. And I'm like, are you crazy? Like, what other chance would you get to do like the Vogue editorial image with everybody dressed up and asking you to take photographs, and you're sitting there complaining that it's like
So
another
true.
family shot? Here they're wearing, these are $10,000 worth of outfits and jewelry.
Yeah.
And again, if I were to just go and hire a model and say, let me try and get this for a day to shoot it, I would want to shoot these things in my own time, but I don't have the budget to go out and just do this constantly.
Yeah.
So these weddings present you with this opportunity to really create incredible images. And for this particular shot, this is, again, a really bad location. We're looking right off to the side of these green tinted windows. And I'm like, well, the quality of the light's great, but the window tinting is really bad. So I'm probably going to black and white this image.
Yeah.
But I can use this to showcase her outfit while keeping him in the frame in kind of an implied nature. So I'm positioning them, moving her so she's just in that spot of light. And I look at the background. I always look through my shot to the background, and I'm placing her in this wall where the wall is kind of the brightest piece, so that it leads right into her face.
Yeah.
And then we cover up the left side. I lift the camera up to shoot over his shoulder, move his chin down into the right so that we get his profile, and then have her look down to that side, and we just get this gorgeous view right here. And the funny thing is, we had this in one of our behind the scenes videos, and if you see the second, all the family, they're taking pictures from this other angle, and I called them there was an Uncle Bob there with his DSLR, and he's taking this second angle, shooting like into this light, and you can see the shot at the exact same moment, and it's freaking hilarious
The Uncle
because it's
Bob
off.
shot.
It's horrible, and you're like, okay, this is the difference between directing and understanding
Totally.
compositional techniques versus just kind of walking up and getting the shot. And there can be so much intention
Yeah.
with even the family photographs. Like you mentioned that shot of Ethan in the alley. I don't know if you can pull it back up.
Sure.
In looking through to the background, what's going on in my head is I see this highlight point, this triangle shaped highlight point in the background.
Yeah.
And you'll notice where it drops down the frame is exactly where his head is placed.
Yeah.
So knowing that, the eyes are drawn to brightest areas of the image, I can use those areas to funnel direction into where I want. And then I can move him in a position where right now I'm using the walls of Bubblegum Alley to be negative fills. So I have two essentially black cards on the left and right, which chisel out the black on his cheek line and really emphasize the kind of the bone structure and give the highlights right to the top of the cheeks. And now the funny thing is I was born the least creative person in the world. And with anything, like I truly believe that creativity is this muscle, like anything. It's this muscle that you practice and you develop until you can look at a scene and deconstruct why. And so that's what I really try to focus on in teaching is I'm not an inherently creative person. I had to learn why behind everything. I had to learn, why do you light a certain way? Why do you pose a certain way? Why does this look awkward? Why does this look right? What's the difference? And once I could do that and explain all the whys, then it's kind of like seeing through, like it's that Neo moment, in the Matrix where you're like, I can see now. I can see it.
So true.
Well, and knowing you love composition, I was going to say, looking at because like there's a natural sense to why you're drawn into it. There's several reasons.
Yeah.
One of them is she's looking. So I try to use eye lines to kind of lead subjects around the image. So if you look at her eyes, they drop into his shoulder. His shoulder creates this line that goes right up to his face, and you see his eyes and nose pointing right back down at her face. So it creates this loop that the viewer can just sit there and kind of glance around and be held in the image. And again, these are all things that I was like, why does an image do that? But this is why. So we're combining the background with the foreground with the loop in the eyes to be able to keep you held in an image.
Jared asked the question, what kind of planning do you do before a shoot and research?
Well, it starts with the mind map, but once I have that, then it goes into a production document. And so last night I mind mapped, and then within 40 minutes, I had 40 different video and shoot concepts documented into that. And the only reason why it's that effective is because I started with the journaling, the mind mapping first. And then from there, I'll just start kind of going, okay, what do we need for each of these? And saying, okay, these are the props, these are the different things that we want to get, and just prepping for each one. My main thing is, if you can take one thing away from this, is to try to do every single thing that you're doing with intention. Like if you do things with intention and purpose, you get so much more value out of it. So for an example, this image is I used, so here's the level of it, like kind of intention that will go into each one of my shoots. And this is how I get the most possible out of them. When we were looking for models for this shoot, what I told my staff was, I want to find a couple who's actually in love and who's actually thinking of getting married. I knew the location, and I said, I want you guys to dress in these colors because these are the colors of that scene. So we're already kind of dressing to the location and planning out the shoot a little bit. There's an entire schedule for what it is that we're going to create. And we go out and we create these images. Now, here's what happens from each of these test shoots. The models, and this has happened probably 8 out of 10 times, the models that I use do end up getting engaged, and they turn around and hire our studio to actually shoot them. I have these series of images that I use to create educational content. So now we have educational content that would go into like our premium, where it would be full length educational content on SR Lounge Premium. Then we say, okay, these are the 5 videos in that I want to take and break out into smaller YouTube content to grow our YouTube audience, to give back to the community, as well as to point people back to our premium education for those that want to dive in deeper.
Right.
And then I say, okay, now the raw files from this, this was actually when I was developing Crush. So I go, okay, I want the images to play into the look of Crush and what Crush is supposed to do. And that look that we have kind of become known for is those exaggerated colors. So as I'm going, the images that I'm shooting throughout the time are kind of thought, okay, I need to use these for Crush development. So then we release Visual Flow, and we end up turning around and using these same images to demonstrate how the presets work, as well as market the development tools that we're creating for photographers. And then this same image and the same series might be used in compositional tips and techniques that we might take over to the Adorama TV channel. So all of this comes from mind mapping it out and saying, okay, this is the shoot that I'm going to do. These are all the different things that I need to get done. And the difference is literally 30 minutes. The difference of 30 minutes spent before you go out and shoot is going to a shoot with purpose and coming away with 10 different channels, revenue streams, marketing opportunities, versus just grabbing your camera and going and haphazardly hoping you get something out of the day.
Wow. That is a profound tip, and you're right. If nothing else, you guys, it's the mindfulness, and intention is everything. You're absolutely right. Thanks again. Have a fantastic day.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Marc.
Leave your comments. Obviously, I want you to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Remember to get out and capture your own images of life. I love you guys. Stay well. We'll see you again really soon.